What to do with the EU, you might ask. To abolish it or to reform it? Something needs to change, that much is clear. I will use a metaphor of a big, beautiful battleship. It's a powerful ship and vast amounts of time and resources been poured into the creation of this big, beautiful and powerful ship. However, it's going in the wrong direction. The captain is greatly incompetent. The crew is bad as well. They are mismanaging this fine ship. The ship itself, it doesn't plot its own course. It goes where the captain determines that it should go. So the EU, in this case, it goes in a very bad direction, which is very bad for the peoples of Europe. Now, the EU is an inanimate object. It's not even an object. It's a set of laws, a framework of legislation, if you will. It doesn't have an agency of its own. That's my main point here. Same thing if we're talking about a political party. The party does not have an agency of its own. The people who are running the party, they have an agency. You can use a historical example. You can look at the Catholic Church, which today is a very anti-European institution. Compare this to the Middle Ages, when the Pope called for crusades to defend Europe. Two completely different things. Why is that? Yes, because ultimately it's not the institution itself that has an agency or a direction. It's about who calls the shots. Who's in charge? Who's the captain? That determines the direction, the institution or whatever it might be. Small thing as a local party, big thing as the EU or the Catholic Church. So when I encourage young guys to go into politics or to go into institutions of power, it is with this knowledge that you need to keep in mind that you as a person, you have agency. An inanimate object or an institution, such as a political party, does not have an agency of its own. This can switch from year to year depending on who is in charge. So humans, like the gun debate in the US, guns don't kill people, people kill people. It's a good saying. Same thing here, a party doesn't do anything on its own. The people in the party, they are doing things. Same thing with the EU. Who is in charge? Now we have anti-European individuals, incompetent as well. So we need to replace them. We can only do that if we get good guys into positions of political power. So we have some good guys also in the EU Parliament as we speak. We just need more of them. Then someone might say, oh, but the metaphysical foundations of the EU, they are built on economy and trade and everything like that. Again, this can change in a year. It all depends on who is in charge. Who is the individual who sits by the levers of power? Who are the guys and girls who push the buttons in the parliament? That is what is interesting. So it's all about humans. It always comes down to what human is in which position. What moral framework does he or she operate within? What zeitgeist is influencing his or her behavior? So that's where we come into the meta-political battle, where we can actually influence policy from the outside. So we need meta-political pressure and we need political pressure. So both are true. Now, anyway, that said, for the EU, I view it as a powerful ship that needs to be used for something good, because it needs to be used. Otherwise, we will be at the mercy of greater powers. To use an example, if Russia were to invade Estonia tomorrow, there's nothing Estonia could do against Russia. However, a strong EU, led by someone competent, such as myself, if I may be so bold, or someone at least adhering to my vision and teachings, could simply say no. This can of course only be done if we first, restore order to Europe by initiating a large-scale remigration process. But my point here is that, geopolitically speaking, Europe needs to be united and strong, otherwise we will be at the mercy of others. Same thing as I made a video earlier this year about Donald Trump talking about annexing Greenland. Now, I admire Donald Trump and I want the best for my brothers and sisters in Vinland, in the new world. But when it comes to geopolitics, it's just a statement of facts. That Donald Trump could do it because Europe is weak. If we want to avoid these things, Europe needs to be strong and united. Imagine the following, that a Chinese fishing fleet is destroying the environment somewhere in the world. Could a country well past its military prime, such as my own beloved Sweden, nothing we can do to China, nothing we can say to China to get them to stop. However, if an emperor of Europe, if an executive of Europe, of the EU, or a reformed EU would say to the Chinese leadership that you are not allowed to destroy these ecological systems, they would say, okay, cool, I understand your perspective, we will, give different directives to our fishing fleets. We have a global responsibility, we have a responsibility towards Mother Nature, and we can only take that responsibility if we are strong, and we can only be strong if we are united. Now, personally, I would like to see many reforms being done to the EU. I might make a podcast episode about it where I, go in depth, because in a shorter video it's quite hard to, talk about all of the reforms. But simply put, I would like to see a smaller but stronger EU, so cut away a lot of the bloated bureaucracy. For the EU to stop micromanaging the affairs of the individual member states and focus on military strength, projecting global power, doing cool things, and by cool things I mean scientific experiments, creating an economic environment that is good for growth, so that we can have good, nice, strong European companies that can actually be competitive. Now, something else I want to say is that when we're talking about a unified Europe, this does not mean that all Europeans need to become the same, but the EU is not the main driver here. It's globalization overall. So you have the same guy in New Zealand, Portugal, Norway, Canada and California. It's the same guy, basically. You've grown up with, World of Warcraft or Age of Empires, you've grown up watching Lord of the Rings, you're into Warhammer, you're into the gym, you have the same perspective. So you are the same guy. Now when I say that we are the same guy, you are the same guy, it's a fun way of saying that the current culture, it goes across borders, so, and that has nothing to do with the EU. We've become more similar for better or worse. I don't see any problem with it, to be honest. But if you look at empires, historically speaking as well, you can still retain your local identity. You can still retain your national identity, despite being in an empire. So, to conclude, my main point, and this is of utmost importance, because this is an insight that will save the West and save the world. An institution does not have agency of its own. What matters is who is in charge. This is true for the moderate political party in Sweden, this is true for the EU, this is true for the Catholic Church, this is true for the Freemasons, this is true for your local football team. What matters is who is in charge, who sets the course. The EU in the correct leadership, and again I encourage all young men go into politics. Try to get into positions of power, so that we can all steer this ship in a healthy direction. Because now, let's be clear, it's going towards some cliffs. It will crash and sink unless we can actually steer it in a better direction. So that is what's at stake. But my point is that an object, an institution, does not have an agency of its own. It's about who steers the ship. Second point, we need a unified Europe to project global strength in order to take our responsibility. as guardians of Mother Nature. Very simple stuff indeed. So anyway, thank you for watching and thank you for your support. XOXO.